Oh. Oh. Sairam, everyone. Just to recollect what we discussed last week, Swami is bringing the concept of dharma. Swami talked about the first verse and the last verse. Dharma Kshetra is the way it starts. And then Swami points out Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, where the Lord is, Krishna is. And Swami says this dharma is Yogeshwara is the sums up the dharma which Krishna teaches, is what Swami says. We also talk about Mama Dharma, but in this case, Swami says Yogeshwara is dharma. So Swami is also using another phrase, which is Yatho dharma, Tato Jayah. Where dharma is, there victory is. So he says, where dharma is, there is victory. Is another sentence which he said in Sanskrit. And he is also saying, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna. Where Krishna is, there victory is. Where Krishna and Arjuna is there victory is. And that the devotee and the Lord being together in one place, Swami seems to be attributing it to dharma. Where dharma is, there victory is. One statement. This other statement is where Krishna is and where Arjuna is, they are ready with the bow and arrow, their victory is. And then Swami also spoke about remember dharma and practice dharma. We discussed a lot about that. I think we all know what is dharma, but remembering at the right time also is, I think, a problem sometimes when we are about to do something. If we remember that is dharma, then the chance of us practicing is high, I guess. The Swami is talking about remember. Then Swami is talking about Gayatri, also Swami mentioned, where he says, Gayatri basically says, I meditate on that Lord. And when I meditate on that Lord, our intelligence is, or intellect, or discrimination is, the Shakti is enlightened. Swami sort of touched upon all these at the same time in the last, the paragraphs which we discussed at the last session. So with those words, I will start the session. I will ask Sister Dharmada, maybe we can just read it once and then we can move on, I guess, because we have discussed these paragraphs quite in detail. Saira.
The way it begins and ends gives a clue to the subject that it expounds. The very first verse starts with the words, in the Dharma field, in the battlefield, Dharma Kshetra, Guru Kshetra. The Dharma, righteous action, being the leading word. The last verse of the final 18th chapter speaks of whatever the master of yoga, Krishna, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna. And the phrase master of yoga sums up the dharma that is taught. Thus, it is clear that the objective of the teaching in the Gita is just this. Remember dharma, practice dharma. How significant this is. All scriptures, sastras, are engaged in the demarcating and defining the nature and subtle characteristics of dharma. The Gita incorporates this study and this analysis. It is a textbook of Dharma in all its aspects. It discusses all the principles underlying Dharma. Arjuna is the individual, Jivi. The body is the chariot, and the teacher in the chariot is Krishna, the Lord. The charioteer is the Lord, the inspirer of the intelligence, the Brahman that prompts the intelligence. in answer to the prayer contained in the Gayatri Mantra. Awaken my discrimination, O Lord, and guide me. The Kauravas represent the demonic nature, the Pandavas, the divine. Those are evil, these are good. And there has always been a struggle between the two. In this conflict between opposing forces, Krishna, the divine self, the Atma, is always on the side of Dharma, the reality that sustains, not the delusion that undermines. If you seek to have the Lord on your side as your guide, equip yourself with divine nature, the qualities of Dharma. For the Lord is where Dharma is. Of course, this does not mean that the Lord is not omnipresent. Butter is omnipresent in milk, although it can be made manifest in one location in the milk only by the process of curdling the churning. So too, the Lord can be made manifest in the specific location by the process of righteous spiritual discipline.
Thank you, sister. I will open it up for any comments from the participants on this. And then if there's none, then we can move on.
Sairam.
Sairam, Auntie.
So this whole paragraph, 2-3 paragraphs which we read just now, has got the word dharma many times. First of all, we should understand what dharma, real dharma means. Not only the righteous action, it has got a deeper meaning. Shall I go ahead?
Yes,
Arun,
Auntie. Yes,
you
yes.
can go, otherwise.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
See, the root for the root word dharma is dhr. Dhr means to uphold or to support or to sustain. These something which sustains one thing is called dharma. I mean, the qualities and the aspects are different aspects of an object. Sorry, who is it? The different aspects and the qualities of an object, it makes into a whole. For example, fire burns. The quality of fire is to burn. The quality of sun is to shine. The quality of water is to flow. See, the basic qualities, what it makes it as a thing, that is called dharma. So Manava Dharma is, when we say about Manava Dharma, dharma of a human being is, when it is followed fully, then only he can be called as a Manava Dharma. It can be called Manava Dharma. So what it means is here, which makes a thing or a being what it is. To call a fire cannot be cold, or fire cannot flow. To call a fire, it should be burning, it should burn, it should give warmth. Only then it can be called fire. The water, for example, it flows. The quality of water is to flow. Only then, it can be called water. Water cannot be something, of course, when it becomes certified, it becomes ice. But water cannot warm us up. Or water cannot give us light. So these things, which make a thing as it is, as a whole, that is called dharma. Not only this righteous action. Of course, righteous action is always the main thing which Swami always says, but it has a deeper meaning. I just wanted to share this knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Auntie. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else has something to say?
Oh, Sai Ram, I just really like that, Auntie. Thank you for telling us that. And so it's kind of like the essence of a thing is its dharma.
Yes, exactly.
So
exactly.
The essence of human being is God. So I guess when we do whatever makes us more godly, or that would be our dharma.
That's correct. That's correct. Well, dharma is the essence of anything. What it is for, what it has for, what its content, then it becomes a dharma. Saira.
Thank you, Auntie. Thank you.
Sairam, in the third paragraph, in this conflict between opposing forces, Krishna, the divine self, Krishna, the divine self, is ever on the side of Dharma, the reality which sustains, not the delusion which undermines. In that particular sentence, we always, maybe in the past, we also discussed and had an understanding about the God or Lord, the Krishna represents the Lord in this particular context. We, in my understanding, God never sided with good or bad, only a witness. But in this particular place, it says the Lord always on the side of Dharma. So is that conflicting, or maybe telling differently to explain the essence of Dharma, or in a different viewpoint? I thought Lord never sided with good or bad, only a witness. It will stay there and watch it, what we are doing.
Good question, sisters. I will open it up for any comments from participants. If the Lord is the witness, how come he's on the side of the good? Yes, I think that's the question Sister Anand is asking. Yeah. So anyone who would like to comment?
Sairam, I think that Lord Krishna was only a charioteer. He didn't do anything else, like he didn't take the weapons of fighting against that Kauravas. So that his role is that as a charioteer, what he's supposed to do, and then he's doing. So thank you, Sairam.
Thank you very much, brother. Anyone else would like to comment or? So I think, okay, if no one is going, then I will go and make the mistake of saying what do I think, I guess. I think, sister, the question is answered in the last paragraph. The Lord is present everywhere. Whether there's good is there or bad is there. But he is made to manifest by some, and he's not made to manifest by others. So if you take, so as Swami said, if you take milk, the ghee is present, the butter is present everywhere equally. It does not discriminate, it is there or here. But what happens is the people who practice dharma, they're going through the process of curdling so that the divinity manifests there. Okay, so that is my understanding. So the dharma is nothing but we doing something through some process so that becomes manifest. So if you take even the Pandava Kaurava war, the Mahabharata war, you should understand that both Duryodhana and Krishna went to Krishna, and Arjuna went to Krishna and sought the help. Okay. Krishna offered the choice. He said, okay, someone can have my army, someone can have me, and I will not fight. Okay, and then Arjuna chose Krishna, even though he was not going to fight. But then why, you can ask, why did Arjuna choose? At that point in time, Arjuna didn't think that he's going to be the charioteer. The job of charioteering was just an incident which happened later. They didn't know what to do with Krishna. He doesn't want to arm. So the only job they could give so that he can be in the battlefield was to give a charioteer job. I think that was decided later. Arjuna didn't decide that he's going to be charioteer at that time. He just said, I want you. So what they asked for is, if you look at the last sentence of the third paragraph, Swami says, if you seek to have the Lord as on your side, as your guide, equip yourself with the divine nature. So that is what Arjuna did. Arjuna asked God to be the guide. Okay. So as Brother Varadan has already said, Krishna didn't fight. For all practical purposes, he was just sitting as a witness. And whenever Arjuna needed help, he gave guidance. And that was sufficient for them to win the war. Even though Krishna had given his own entire army to the Kaurava side. So Krishna was present on the Kaurava side also as the army. That is why he doesn't discriminate. He didn't take sides. It is just that whatever people wanted to manifest, that manifested. That's my understanding, sister. Even in this world, even the bad people are living. They also get food every day. They can also breathe the air. They also have water to drink. They also live. God is present there also. Only difference is they have not manifested the divinity latent within through sadhana outside. So that God doesn't discriminate anyone. But if you make him manifest, that much more benefit you will have. You will have what is called victory. I hope that answers your question, sister. That's my limited understanding. Swami has given here. So,
okay. Thank you so much for Manibhashyam and T, Brother Arunu and Brother Varadan too. Thank you.
In Telugu translation, can I read it that now?
Yes, Auntie, yes.
See, what here Swami is saying is, Arjunudu Jeevudu, Sharirame Rathamu, Prabodhukudu Krishnudu, Dhiyo Yona Prachodayatonu Gayatri Mantramuna Cheppabadina Preraka Brahmaye, Krishna Paramatma. So the reality that sustains here, we can take it as Brahman. When we are able to, it's not Krishna as a person. Take it as Atma. When we realize that we are that pure Atma, and this moha, the delusion will always be, we can get rid of it. Only that reality will sustain. That's what he is said. He sada sadgunamalakellappudu sangarshanamu jaruguchune undunu. Appudu Atma Swarupudagu Krishnudu Dharma Pakshamune Vahinchunu. Kanuka Krishnudu Mana Pakshamuna Kavalnanna Dharma Sampatini Kaligi Undavalenu. Dharma Mechutunu Atu Bhagavantudu Achade undunu. I think that particular line, the reality that sustains, not the delusion that undermines, is it has got more deeper meaning, I feel.
Thank you, Auntie. I mean, you are referring to the Brahman itself, is what you are saying.
Yeah, Brahman itself, it's referring. You realize you are Brahman, then that reality will sustain and it will get rid of you, this moha, maya. That's what it says there.
So ultimately, the victory is not over the opposite force. It's actually victory over ourselves, our own nature, our own nature also.
The fight is going on inside us.
Yes, Kalyani.
So I had written down last time that Dharma is Yogeshwara. Is that right? So Dharma is God?
Master of yoga. He is Yogeshwara, master of yoga. Krishna.
Krishna is. And
yeah.
Is that Krishna? Is Krishna Dharma?
He's the Dharma Swarupa also. Okay, so I think Swami is, Swami has used two sentences. One is Yatho Dharma Tato Jeha. Their Dharma is their victories. Okay. Then what is this dharma is explained in the last verse of the Gita Shloka. So the last verse says, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara. So the dharma is split into two in that verse. What is that? One is God, Krishna. One is Arjuna. So Arjuna, by the side of Krishna, is actually yoga, which yoga means actually they're united together. When the Lord and the devotee are united together, whatever they do is dharma. Is my understanding. Okay. When the Lord and the devotee are connected, they are dharmais. But Swami is also saying only when there is dharma, both will be connected also. Swami says, if you want the Lord on your side, cultivate divine nature. So that, once we do that, whatever we do will be dharma, is my understanding. Okay. And Swami is sort of linking both and saying, so what Gita is teaching is how this devotee, Arjuna, can be connected to the Lord Krishna. And through that process, dharma happens. Because what is that Krishna, as Auntie said, it's not a God somewhere else. It's our own divine nature. If we are in tune with that, then that is dharma.
Yeah.
Okay. So Swami has put all these together so that
Yeah, it is so packed with so
much packed. And the more we read and understand. So basically saying a devotee attains dharma by connecting to the Lord, by cultivating divine qualities. And through that process, victory over oneself and the lower nature of oneself is attained. I think that's the story of Bhagavad Gita. And Swami is going to spend, I think, different aspects of it. He will take us through in the Geetha Vahini.
And the phrase master of yoga is teaching us the dharma. Sums up sums up the meaning of dharma that is taught. Lord Krishna here is the master of yoga. He teaches the dharma. He sums up the whole meaning of dharma and what is to be followed, what is to be negated. He is teaching us in Gita. So remember dharma and practice dharma. Sairam.
So then maybe shall we move on to the next slide? I know we can spend a few more weeks discussing this, but I think Swami is elaborating the same points in different ways. So we will move on, Saira.
Where there's dharma, victory is achieved. Yato dharma, stato jaya. Arjuna was engrossed with the physical aspect, so it was necessary to bless him with the knowledge of the real, the Atmic aspect. The entire complex of spiritual discipline is directed to the clarification of the awareness of Atma and the fixing of attention on that. The teaching of Krishna is just this. In fact, this is the sum and substance of the search for truth. Krishna answered many doubts that had entangled Arjuna, but that he failed to express. O Arjuna, you are grieving because these kings and princes who are related to you are about to meet death at your hands. You talk glibly of dharma, but remember the wise mourn neither for the living nor for the dead. Shall I tell you why? Well, you are feeling grief over the body, which alone decays on death. Did you grieve when the body underwent many changes here though? The child disappeared in the boy disappeared in the youth became lost in the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was lost in the old man, and the old man is lost in death. You never wept for the changes that affected the body so far, so why weep for this one change? Today, do you have the body you had when you were a boy? Where is the frame you had when you tied up Drishtya Yuma? Drishtadyumna.
Okay.
You still remember that boy's exploit, but the body that achieved it is gone. So too, whatever changes your body suffers, the Atma, the splendor of the true wisdom, remains immortal. Being established unshakably in this knowledge is the sign of the truly wise. Thus spoke Krishna. You may ask whether one would not feel sad when the bodies with which one moved and lived for years go out of sight. But for how many have you to lament in case it is proper so to grieve? Have you thought of that? Joy and grief are day and night. They have to be put up with, gone through. If you refuse, they won't stop happening. If you desire, they won't start happening. Both are related to the physical material, the body. They do not affect the spirit, the soul. The moment you escape from these two, you have liberation, moksha.
Thank you very much, sister. So I think it's pretty straightforward. Swami is talking about change, death, that we should not worry about, feel sad about it. So I will open it up for any discussion, any comments people have. Sai.
Sairam, brother. What is that, the meaning of Trishtiyama?
Drishtadyumna. Okay, Drishtadyumna. Okay. I think it's a story of, maybe it's a side story. Okay, maybe I will tell the story. Unless someone else wants to say this, tell the story. If no. Okay, so I will go. So what happened was, I don't know whether you all know Drona. Dronacharya was a friend of Drupada, King Drupada, okay, who was the father of Draupadi. And he felt slighted by his friend Drupada because he was so poor. So out of anger, he left his friend, and that's how he came and joined the Kauravas and the Pandavas, and he taught them. So at the end of it, at the end of teaching the Pandavas and the Kauravas, they had to give Guru Dakshina. Okay, as part of that, his request was that he had to slight his friend who slighted him in the past. He wanted to get back. It was a revenge of sort. So Arjuna and the Pandavas all left, and Arjuna was supposed to have fought with Drishtadyumna, who is the brother of Draupadi. And he tied him up and brought him. And as the gift for Drona, from what I can remember, that's a story I remember. I may be wrong. I will ask Auntie, is that story okay, Auntie?
I'm confusing that Drishtadyumna, was he not the husband of that Dushala?
No, Drishtadyumna is Drishtadyumna. See, what happened? Drupada basically did a penance and got 2 children.
Yeah, Draupadi and
Drishtadyumna. And that's how Drishtadyumna was the one who killed Drona also. Okay, because he wanted to, so that enmity has been going for a long time.
Yeah, that revenge he had to take out.
Yes. Okay, so, but I think that's a story. But what Krishna is telling here, Arjuna, is, when you tied this fellow up, okay, the body, the figure you had, okay, the Drishtadyumna also, when I think when they married Draupadi, also they came, so they had fight, and also that's also another story. But when he was young, in the war, he tied him up and brought him. So what Krishna is telling, that young figure you don't have, you have lost when you were young. I think for that purpose only Swami is talking about here.
The body changes. That's
Body
basically
changes.
Swami is saying is body goes on changing, but the Atma is the permanent thing, which can the Atmic aspect take that awareness of the Atma is always there. We have to fix our attention on Atma. The body goes on changing, but in all of us, that presence of Atma is divinity is there. We have to remember that is eternal. Sai Ram.
Thank you. Thank you, Buddha.
Anyone else has something, or if I think if it's pretty, I think simple in some way. Swami is equating death to our own changes in our body every day, every age. I would say, we lose the body, but we don't even realize that we have lost the old body which we had.
Yeah.
And Swami is equating that to death also. Death also, that's also just a loss of a body.
Just a change. It's a change.
Sai Ram,
Yes, Auntie.
this is Sakwanti. I just have a question. Baba has repeatedly said that that person's soul is old. Some young souls like that, old and young souls. That means does soul also have ages? Go through aging process?
I think it's not the physical aging. The soul is matured, much more matured to go near Paramatma. I feel that is, some realized souls which are born again and they live here for a short while and then they just pass out. So that kind of a soul.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's
So
it.
The realized soul are the old soul.
Realized soul or matured soul, we take many births. When in each birth we are trying to improve upon ourselves.
Okay.
So cultivate good habits, cultivate better understanding of other things. So when we mature, that soul is also matured and it goes, of course, after the death of a person, the body dies, the soul travels. But when it is born again, maybe in a better circumstance, better house, better this thing in surroundings, and it reaches the mukti quickly. It's going to attain liberation. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think, is it correct, Arun? Please.
Correct, Auntie. I think, just to add to what Auntie said, it means when we look at people around us, we really don't know how far the soul has transferred. It's not that somebody is better than the other. It is just that I think each of us take different births. We don't know the level of maturity of each other. I think what matters is, our own maturity. So to that extent, it is a physical age, because just the way physical body goes through a maturing process, I think the soul also goes through a maturing process. So that maturing process is the age, as Swami says.
Yeah, correct.
And that maturing, we don't know how fast, how many births, we really don't know those mechanics. But I think there are a couple of places in the Geetha Vahini Swami is addressing that. So I'm sure we will leave it till that point in time.
Sai Ram, Swami has told us several times in other Vaginis too, births and deaths are changing clothes on soul. Yeah. So but we don't know what type of clothing we will get in our next birth. That is the worry, maybe this time very expensive clothing or very, very well clothing we have received. Maybe next birth, we don't know what kind of clothings we will receive to cover our soul, That's a very interesting part. Even in this particular paragraph, Swami, or maybe the Lord Krishna explained to Arjuna that in every stage of our life, we will be changing our physical body, and it transforms. But in the other, the Vahini Swami explained that maybe later Swami may explain, the births and deaths are changing our clothes to the soul. But when I look at right now, I thought, what type of clothing we will receive in our next birth. That is we don't know. Nobody knows. That's according to our the actions and what we have done in this life. That will give us the account balance for the next clothing.
Yeah, the law of karma takes over. The law of karma takes over, and according to that, we get our births and deaths. That is all.
Sairam sister, I think you have asked a question. I think the question is it a draw of the, luck of the draw, that's the way people think. But I think Swami, I think at some point Swami is talking about, I think everything which we do today is determining what that new cloth is going to be.
Yeah.
So I think people forget that we have to prepare for the next piece of cloth which we have to wear.
Yeah.
And they are forgetting that, and they are using the current thing which they're wearing for whatever they want to do. And if that happens, then we really we have not worked on it. I think Swami is talking about it later on.
We have drawn our own blueprint for the next life. Blueprint is ready, so that according to that we get our birth and play clothes.
Vasanas. The vasanas will.
Vasanas and karma. Yeah.
Karma and vasanas.
Law of karma.
See, it's like, I think at one point Swami is telling sister, tomorrow how you will be is determined by what you eat today. And where you go to sleep, that's where you wake up. Just the way, so it's not going to be any difference. It shouldn't be a surprise. Because what we ate yesterday will determine how we are today. And where we went to sleep yesterday, that's where we will wake up. So death is also a sleep. And what we eating today is what, I think there's another story Swami is talking about. They are eating what they are eating for tomorrow, and they are just digesting what they ate yesterday. That one Chinna Kada Swami is telling about somebody who is doing something bad. It's a distract. I don't want to. It was a diversion, but so whatever we are doing today is determining next one.
Yeah. That is little scary. Whatever we eat today
determines how you are tomorrow.
Yeah.
Brother, you were about to say the story. Why don't you say that story, please?
No, it's a Chinna Katha where okay, someone goes begging. Okay, and a beggar, is going to beg somewhere, and people, they're shouting and screaming and sending them away. They were eating, and this person begs for some food, and not only they're not giving, they're abusing him and sending him away. Okay, and then one of the women who is looking at it is telling they're eating what they earned, and they're sowing what they are going to eat tomorrow. Something like that. So what is old they are eating, what is new they are cooking, or something like that, which basically means today they are enjoying something which they sown last time, but they don't realize what they sow today is what they are going to reap tomorrow. Okay, so
good. Thank you. So in your action, your current action will show you what you're going to have it tomorrow.
Exactly.
So be nice. Thank you, Saira.
Sairam, just about the last paragraph. Like Swami is saying that, you should not grieve, for people passing away. But then he's saying also that if you refuse, it won't stop happening. So you still have to go through the joy and the grief. So like if you feel sad or if you feel a negative emotion, like should you just express it and allow it to happen, I guess?
Okay, anyways, so Sister Kalyan is asking a practical question. How do we deal with losses in our life? Should we grieve? If we feel grief, should we express that grief? What is the right thing? According to what Swami is telling here, what are we to do? How are we to deal with the losses which we come across in our life, which we face in our lives? Good question, sister. I will open it up for discussion. Everyone can share. I'm sure everyone has faced some loss in their lives. Like Buddha, when he asked that mother, go bring some mustard seeds from a home where no one is dead. So I think everyone has felt. So I think it's a good, we can discuss. How are we to deal with it? When we feel grief, what do we do?
This is part of life, is unavoidable. Anything happen, like a grief or happy, don't be excited with too happy. In the same way, like don't be sad because this is happening to you. You overcome that one. Tomorrow will be changed. Tomorrow will be good. Like a day and night. Whenever we are happy, whenever the bright we see, and whenever sun is disappear, it's dark. That's how the life is. Always good and bad happen. Just have to pass through that. We don't have to worry about that. Whatever bad happen, or not too excited about what the good happen. That is the part of life. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, brothers. Thank you. Anyone else? So I think, the entire Gita is all about not feeling bad when something is lost. So I'm sure Swami has enough opportunities to tell us what we should do. But the reality is, if we ask the question, what are we upset about? I think that will help dealing with grief, because generally people don't want to look at themselves and say, why am I feeling sad? For example, if somebody passed away, we are actually not crying for the person who passed away. Most of the time we feel sad out of what's called self-pity, that I will not get to see the person tomorrow. This person is not in my life. Okay. This is what actually makes people feel sad. Okay. But the reality is, the person may have been with you for a long time and you have had, so it's ultimately a thought which makes a person sad. When you think your cup is half empty, you will feel sad. If you think your cup is half full, you will feel happy. So it's, I think, what we look at. But a wise person knows a cup is always half full, half empty. And he will say, what is empty, I can't do anything about. What is full, I will make use of. So I think ultimately it is analyzing why we feel sad is the only way to deal with sadness properly, so that there's closure, as I think that's a term people use. Closure comes only by analyzing, doing Atma Vicharana, who is crying for whom, who died, who didn't die, what is that, what is the thing which is dying, what is the thing which didn't die, what am I really feeling bad about? Is it about me or is it about the person? So I think if you ask all these questions, it will get us, I think, make us deal with it better. I'm not saying there's no pain in the parting. but the pain that should not become suffering.
Yeah.
Okay.
And moreover, the attachment, the intensity of our attachment to a person makes us all the more sad. Because for some persons, we are not attached. So if they die, it doesn't matter. But for some, in our family members, we are more attached to them, and then we see them every day and night. And that person passes away, then, we have got that, we stop thinking about that it is the body which has died. The Atma is always present, and then we don't think of all those things. Just as Arun said, I'm losing that person. He was in my life, and I am going to lose that person. That also makes us feel sad. Sorry.
And also another point, I think that practically thinking, if someone fully depend on another person, if that person dies, then everything is going to be upside down. Maybe for small children, it could be parents. For maybe the young couple, maybe it could be a husband and wife. So if that is the case, even though we know that each soul or each person is they're different, and they will go up and coming down separately in different time. But if a person is fully depend on another person, it could be for the family perspective or financial perspective, or the emotional and the other perspective, then that sort of loss is little harder than the other,
Exactly.
other things, the practically speaking, only the very, maybe the wisdom people or very elevated people, maybe they may overcome that sort of sorrow. The others, it will take a little while. That's why time heals better than anything else. Even our all the Swami's teachings, or even other philosophies, they say time will heal. Anything, everything more than other things. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sisters. Thank you.
Especially in a young family, maybe the breadwinner passes away. That situation is really, their whole life is shattered. So they can't think of anything except, that a person who has been bringing money for the family, he has gone away. Now what is next? How are we going to survive? That question, when it comes, it is all the more sad. It's all the more very, very unhappy situation there. So to deal with such issue, of course, if we have faith in Lord, He will show us the way that unflinching faith should come to us. It won't come in one day, but we have to develop it slowly while we are quite young. Then, we can overcome that sorrow also. But definitely there will be another path. When one door shuts, the other door opens. That's what we always feel, So we have to have that faith.
Thank you, Auntie. Thank you. So I guess I think everyone is feeling down about this. So we will
let us have something.
We will go to the next.
To lift up our spirits.
So we'll go on to the next slide. If there is nothing, anyone has something to say. Okay. Hi, Ram sisters.
The first discourse, which teaches these truths, is named the Despondency of Arjuna, Arjuna Vishada Yoga. It is a very foundation of the edifice that is the Bhagavad Gita. When the foundation is strong, the edifice too is lasting. The Gita, built on that foundation 5,000 years ago, is unshaken and unshakable. From this, you can infer how strong its foundation is and how wise the person is who laid it. He referred to it as despondency, but that despondency was very beneficial. It was no ordinary want of courage, for it tested Arjuna's sincerity and steadfastness. It induced him to take unquestioning refuge in the Lord.
Yeah.
That is why it is dignified by the name yoga. The Gita begins with the yoga of despondency, Vishada, and ends with the yoga of renunciation or detachment, sannyasa. Despondency is the foundation, renunciation, that is the superstructure. Despondency is the seed, renunciation, the fruit. The question may be raised, how could Arjuna be credited with a pure nature, which alone is said to deserve the wisdom that is imparted in the Gita? The word Arjuna means pure, unsullied, white. He is very appropriately named, and he lived up to that name. That is how he secured the immediate presence of Lord Krishna. That is how he became the instrument for the gift of Gita to the world.
Thank you very much, sister.
Mhm.
So, Swami is showing us the silver lining in this depressing thing.
Yeah.
He's asking how we can change this despondency into a yoga. And as Swami can say, so that's also beneficial as long as it is used well. And it can form the best foundation for us to build our own mansion of spiritual well-being, I guess. So with those thoughts, I will open it up for discussion. Everyone can share your thoughts, please. Saira.
Sorry, I'm just confused a bit about the first paragraph. So is Swami saying the foundation is the despondency?
Vishada Yoga.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, Kalyani. Because Swami is saying the Vishada itself, when it becomes a yoga, that forms a foundation on which their entire Bhagavad Gita is built, Swami says.
And then
So
when Swami, when he was saying you can infer how strong its foundation is and how wise the person who laid it. So is he saying that Krishna laid that foundation, or he gave Arjuna that despondency?
I think he made it yoga. Krishna, because Krishna was there, I think it was Krishna who made it yoga. Of course, Arjuna had a part to play in it. I think that's why Swami is describing who Arjuna is also. But I think Krishna is the master who laid that foundation. I think that's what Swami is referring. That's my understanding, but others can share.
So I guess the more despondent we are, or maybe if you've gone through a lot of suffering, like that could be a very strong foundation for.
Yes. Because detachment does not come when you are having a good time. Okay. Only when there's a problem, detachment will dawn. So many people just welcome actually troubles because that improves your ability to detach. Okay.
To bear with the suffering.
Bear with the suffering.
Yeah. Kunti, for example, she asked Krishna to give her as much as trouble as possible so that she can remember him in times of need, in times of that despondency. And in a way, I think we feel when we are going through a lot of suffering, automatically, I think the renunciation will come to us. That detachment. Yes, why I am attaching so much to this passing event. So I may get detached. Yeah.
So it's in the path of spirituality, troubles and problems and, churning is a part of the process. Whether it's at the individual level, it's a family level, or it's a society, an organization, everywhere it has to come. Because when it does not come, we are complacent. We even think, we are spiritually progressing, nothing is wrong. But God has to make you go through some trouble, some suffering, so that everyone has an opportunity to reflect. So I think that's part of the process. We will start thinking of God also more if there's some suffering. Prayers become intense, more time is spent. All good things happen when there's suffering. Like Swami says, Buddha just saw 3 things and that motivated him so much. And millions of people have benefited from that. Actually, Buddha couldn't take it, people, old age, suffering, and death. These 3 things just troubled him so much that he went in a quest for knowledge. And what he gained, even till today, after thousands of years, people are benefiting. Same with Arjuna. Arjuna was also, troubled. And Krishna solved the problem, and now so many people get benefit from that. I think that's what Swami is referring to.
In Telugu also, Swami says this. Bhagavantuni sharanu pondataku dari jupe vishadam kuda oka upakarame. It's a beneficial thing. Vishadam. Adi oka yogam. Vishada yoganto pranambamaina Geetha sannyasa yogamto mugisindi. It ended with sannyasa.
The last chapter is Sannyasa Yoga.
Yeah.
So 18 chapters. So even the chapters are named that way.
And about the name yoga, so Swami says that is why it is dignified by the name yoga. And we said yoga is kind of like union or communion with God.
Yeah.
Is it, but when it's referring to the chapters like Vishada Yoga, is it talking about, like, is that meaning still the same, or is there a slightly different meaning there?
It is a meaning because Arjuna was upset. Okay. The upset Arjuna was, who did he tell all his trouble to? Krishna. As soon as we share the trouble with the Lord, it becomes yoga. He didn't go out and say, okay, let me go talk to my elder brother and talk. Let me go to Bhishma and talk. He didn't talk to anyone. His troubles, he only confided in Krishna. He didn't seek out anyone else. So when we are sad, if you pour it all out only to God, that becomes a prayer by itself. We are not crying and telling other people, I think that Swami has spoken about this a lot. Why Arjuna's Vishada became yoga is because he cried out to the Lord. He complained to the Lord, no one else. And that makes it a sadhana. When we are in trouble, seek out the Lord. When we don't seek out the Lord, then we think, oh, who is going to look after? Who will, Through all this, Arjuna had the confidence that Krishna will somehow bail him out. That's see, Swami says, for it tested Arjuna's sincerity, steadfastness, it induced him to take unquestioning refuge in the Lord.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what Swami says. If when you want something, don't ask anyone, ask me. Ask God. If you go ask somebody else, then you will say, oh, God will say, okay, they ask somebody else, let them ask, get it from them. So I think that's my understanding. I think if everyone is okay, we will go to the next slide.
Krishna uses the word yoga many times in the Gita. The state of the individual, Jivi, during yoga is also described. Yet a doubt may arise in the minds of those who have read the Gita that there is no agreement between the word as used ordinarily and as used by Krishna. Krishna has extolled detachment, vairagya, in some places. In other places, he has declared that the highest freedom can be earned by worship. He also elaborates on various methods of attaining the supreme state of spiritual bliss. In the eighth discourse, there is an account of the royal yoga, Raja Yoga. But it is not right to say that the Gita is a text that teaches the royal yoga. Complete surrender to Lord Krishna, freedom from threefold shackles that bind one with the external world of objects, and observance of good deeds and virtuous disciplines, these are the principal truth underlined in the Gita. The Lord holds these forth as the best forms of training the deepest secrets of inner progress. The real meaning of the Gita is not grasped by all. Reputed scholars and writers, although gifted with a rare intelligence, have failed to unravel the mystery of its message. Commentators speak of the principle of perfect balance amidst all change, or of the achievement of freedom as more important than anything else. On the other side, others compare the Gita with the philosophical text of the West, with which they are familiar, and start teaching young minds in that strain. Of course, full renunciation is highly desirable, but only a very small number can practice it. If a certain spiritual teaching has to gain universal acceptance, it must have disciplines that can be practiced and experienced by everyone in daily life and its activities.
Okay, thank you, sister. So Swami is giving us a very good overview of the Gita itself, various parts, various topics which are discussed by Lord Krishna with Arjuna. And so in a sense, Swami is just giving us a glimpse of what all we can expect to hear from him. I will just open it up for discussion. If anyone has something to say, something to ask, please go ahead.
Sai Ram, can you just explain that sentence where Swami saying, a doubt may arise in the minds of those who have read the Gita that there's no agreement between the word as used ordinarily and as used by Krishna? I think he's referring to the word yoga.
Yes. Anyone would like to comment?
Sai Ram, this Swami has told that a small example, for a patient in a dangerous condition, the doctor should give a life-saving injection in the first instance. Then he should proceed with the regular treatment. If he does not do it, then the patient will be in the great danger and possibly may die also. The person drowning must first be pulled out of the water and then given some treatment. If this procedure is not followed, the person will be drowned to death. Similarly, Arjuna's condition at the moment that he is drowned in sorrow and delusion. Therefore, he should be treated for this condition first. Accordingly, Krishna gave him a strong injection of courage and confidence to pull him out of his weakness. Thus, he started explaining the concept of Atma and Anatma. Thank you, Saira.
Sairam, Auntie. Sairam.
In the ordinary sense, the word yoga is used, it has become a habit to explain the physical postures which we do. It's a yoga. That's how in Western distinct places where they understand yoga to be an exercise of different physical postures. But Krishna here uses the word yoga in a different sense, that is to unite with the Lord by following a certain discipline, certain sadhana. That's what Swami is trying to tell. I think that's the meaning. Arun, you can explain.
Yes, Auntie. Yes, thank you, Auntie. Yes, if no one else is saying, Auntie has nicely explained. Because usually, people, as soon as people say yoga, talk about asanas. That's the way most people think, and they don't even know the 8 limbs of the Ashtanga Yoga. Also, they don't know. Patanjali, what are the 8 limbs that they don't know? But when people say yoga, they think, see people, imagine that people are standing upside down or in Padmasanam and things like that. And so that is called Raja Yoga actually. So that's why in this paragraph at the end, Swami is telling, don't think Raja Yoga is, that's why most people think. Common man who has not read the Bhagavad Gita, who do not have any knowledge of the yoga as a principle, they think it is doing some complicated asanas, physically taxing asanas. And I think that's what Swami is referring to.
Yeah.
And as Auntie has already said, what exactly the meaning of your yoga is, the union. Yes, thank you.
And in the second paragraph, Swami is saying freedom from the threefold shackles that bind one with the external world. What are the threefold shackles?
So, is it Tattva, Rajas, Tamas?
I think, Auntie.
Yeah. Threefold shackles.
That's why Auntie was just reading, I think the next slide we will come across, because how Arjuna was liberated from tamas and taken to rajas, and from rajas he was taken to sattva, and from sattva he was fully liberated. And the Gita basically covers all aspects from what I can see, because they are the ones which bind us.
In the first paragraph, I think what he has declared that the highest freedom can be earned by worship. That is Bhakti Yoga. He also elaborates on various methods of attaining supreme state of bliss. That is Gnana Yoga. Isn't that?
Yes, Auntie, yes.
That's correct, I think.
Swami is talking about Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, all are handled in Gita.
All angles, yes.
But what Swami say, I think the last paragraph Swami is saying, one aspect is not good enough as a universal sadhana. So that's why Swami says a discipline which covers everyone's need is what is a universal sadhana. And Swami says Krishna has provided that. I think the next maybe in the next slide it will come.
Sairam, why Swami has told in the third paragraph, the real meaning of the Gita is not grasped by all, even though not only in Sai, the family of Sai circle, the Bhagavad Gita, it's all kind of different sectors. They always the Gita Padisham or the different way of they teach the Holy Gita. But Swami is telling that the real meaning of the Gita is not grasped by all, even it's by reputed scholars and writers. The why Swami has put that statement here, because the real meaning can only be understood by a very elevated soul, or whether even though maybe some scholars they have mastered in that they maybe scriptures, Vedas, and even those people, it's really hard to understand the real meaning of the Gita.
Good question, sister. I'll again ask others to comment what exactly Swami is trying to drive home.
There is a mystery in its message, Swami is saying.
Auntie, you want to read the Telugu also,
Yeah.
if there's anything.
Krishna used the word yoga many times. Then the second factor of గీత యొక్క నిజమైన అర్థము అందరి చేతను గ్రహింపబడలేదు. ప్రసిద్ధ విద్వాంసులు, అతి నిశిత బుద్ధి గల లేఖకులు తీక్ష్ణమైన మనసుతో కూడా గీత యొక్క గూఢార్థమును చేపట్టలేకపోయిరి. ఒకవైపు వ్యాఖ్యానకర్తలు భగవద్గీతలోని ఏక సిద్ధాంతమును, వైరాగ్యముల ఘనతను, స్వాతంత్రం నందు ఇష్టముతో చూపెట్టిరి. Clearly, Swami is not saying what is that mystery message, mystery of its message. People say it in different ways. స్వకర్మ విధానములోను సాక్షాత్తుగా అనుభవించి తెలిసి కొనగలిగినటువంటి వేద విహిత శాస్త్ర సమ్మతమైన ఆదర్శములను నియమములను కలిగి ఉండవలెను. Universal acceptance, that's what's
Auntie, following the sentence also is not clear, because commentators speak of the principle of perfect balance of made all change or of achievement of freedom as more important than anything else. So when there's a mystery cannot be unraveled, the message is it's not clear, the commentators also cannot make the right message, I think.
Yeah, this is what it's also saying.
Because every time you read and understand, it gives you a different meaning all the time.
Yeah.
So that's the mystery about.
But the maybe last sentence, of course, full renunciation is highly desirable, but only a very small number can practice it. If a certain spiritual teaching has to gain universal acceptance, it must have disciplines that can be practiced and experienced by everyone in daily life and activities. Here also the Telugu version is also the same.
So So I think, Sister
But
Ananti, my understanding is why Swami is making this statement is many people approach Gita as something to study, using their intellect. They can debate. So that's why Swami is saying they try to comment on it. They compare it with Western philosophical texts, which is better, which is good. It is a very academic exercise. When you approach it with the academic exercise, you will not really understand it. I think what Swami is driving home. Because if you go back to the first chapter, the first 2-3 lines, Swami has already said how we should approach Gita.
Bahya.
But
Bahya Nirikshana. Bahiranga Parikshana, Bahya Nirikshana.
Okay. And Swami says you need to have puja bhavam, you need to have a reverential attitude.
Reverential.
If we do not have this, we will miss the point. Then it will become an academic exercise, debate. Is this given importance? Is this not given importance? All that comes into play. In that process, people may just miss the point. Okay, because sadhana is ultimately what it is. Making a devotee join, unite with the Lord is the purpose of Gita. How that happens, there are various ways through which you can approach it.
Yes.
Okay, so instead of forgetting that uniting is the more important thing, if we say, is this important, is that the better mark, which will get us fast, all that will not take us anywhere, is I think what Swami is trying to say.
Yeah.
And so what the union of the devotee with the Lord is the ultimate, that yoga. And how you approach your various paths, no path is better or worse. And that's why Swami says the teaching has universal acceptance. So that's why Gita provides everything. If it gives you Jnana Marga, Karma Marga, Bhakti Marga, all of them, even Vishadam will unite you. As even if you just cry, even if you're sad, that also can unite you with the Lord, because that will somehow lead you to the final stage of sannyasa. So ultimately, uniting with the Lord in any manner is the most important thing, not the manner. You see,
Brother, here, brother, the despondency of the Arjuna made him to understand what Krishna was talking at the time, right? So that is so that also one thing, that state of mind and despondency help him to understand. So if the mindset is not there, also you won't understand what is it's said in the Gita.
Yeah, but just see, sister, so many people are despondent in this world.
All of them.
What is then we have to define what kind of despondency of Arjuna, to then we can see at what is the state of mind that he added.
It's moha. It is moha, attachment to the bodies of his relatives, his cousins, his guru.
Yes.
That attachment for him, he was giving more importance to the physical aspect of all those persons before him, who are standing in front of him.
So when you read with the worldly attachment, then you will understand differently what is Gita saying. Right? So it's in order to understand what it's in Gita, as brother said, then academically no one will understand. Only you have to have a state of mind. Yes.
Correct.
I think we can contemplate on despondency, but I think you asked the question. I think there are a couple of discourses where Swami has talked about what is so special about Arjuna's despondency. What Swami says is his despondency was not about himself. His despondency was because of his compassion about others. there was some selfless nature in that. He was not thinking, I am going to lose. He is going to think, it should not happen to these people. These people should not die. Okay. So it was not selfish at all. So that itself, that's a good qualification by itself. Even though if you read it, he will say, Krishna, I don't want anything in this world. I am ready to even beg. I am ready to even go without food. I don't want this victory. I don't want this. Okay. So at that point in time, it was more compassion which made him despondent. Okay. But so that is the highest level of despondency. But then he submitted to the Lord. Even that he submitted to the Lord and he cried out to him and sought his help. These things made the whole thing despondent. That despondency to become yoga. Okay. But there was some negative element, that's what Krishna helped out, because he was thinking of the body as permanent. He was mixing up with Atman, all that. Okay. So that is where the despondency, it should be selfless. It should be
Compassion.
Shared with the compassion. It should be shared with the Lord. You pray to him for guidance. Then it becomes yoga.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
It's not just crying. Oh my! Everyone goes. If you go to Vajan or anywhere, everywhere, everyone is crying. You know, they're all crying. Oh, Swami, I lost money. You know, I don't know what will I do tomorrow. What will I eat? You know, all that can happen. We'll say, if I die, you know, who will look after? Please heal me. We pray all kinds of things, but it's all about ourselves. That kind of despondency can never become yoga. Okay, so Swami, there are a couple of discourse. I think maybe Swami will touch on that also.
Yeah.
So that is why, so if you go back to the previous, Swami is giving very high qualification for Arjuna. He's pure, he's blemishless, he's white, you know, all that he's saying. That means he put himself last. He put himself so last. He didn't say, if I, you know, when he says I am begging, his family also will be begging. Okay. So he's that much intelligence he has. But he didn't say, oh, my people are going to suffer because of me. No. He was about other people. Others should not suffer. Others should not die. You know, that was his view. And Swami has talked about that also.
Moreover,
Yes.
Arjuna had a lot of respect for his gurus, Dronacharya, Kripacharya, everybody. And he was so much in attachment to his grandfather, Bhishma. How can I kill him? How can I? That question came to him. There, not only compassion, attachment also was there to an extent. And he was not being selfish also. It was a selfless thing which made him despondent. Saira.
So yes, as Auntie pointed out, there was that element of attachment which makes it slightly related to the self.
Yeah.
That's why Krishna is asking, when you killed other people, how come you never thought about it? Today you are talking. You know? And that's a question. So there was an element of attachment.
Attachment also. Compassion.
Yes. Thank you, Auntie.
Okay.
But you know, some little problem God will fix. You know, if you're failing in one or two areas, he will pass us. Grace marks.
Yeah, correct.
The whole thing, we should not be complete failure. I think that's what it is. Okay, so I think it's about 4:20.
Yeah. Before
Thank
we
you
close,
so much. Thank
Okay,
you so
Auntie,
much.
you want to say something, Auntie?
I want to ask you this Telugu word,
Yes.
Ishan Matramu. Can you just look at the dictionary and tell me? Ishan Matramaina. Savasta Samsara Dharmalato, Ishan Matramaina Atmaku Sambandham Ledu. At least there is no this thing, Sambandha, relationship with the Atma. But exactly the word Ishan Matra. Can you just tell me the meaning?
I don't know
please?
whether it's related to Ishana Traya, Auntie, but I will.
Matramu. That's what it is. Here it is written Ishan Matramaina. The first first paragraph, it continuation.
So there's anyway, I will do some research, but just for
Yeah.
quick place, Swami says there is Ishana Trayas are there. Putreshana, Dhaneshana, Dhareshana are three things we suffer from apparently. So attachment to children, attachment to spouses, attachment to money.
Money. Yeah, that
the three Ishanas. Okay.
Ishanatraya. That is Ishanatraya.
Yes.
Here,
So
what he says is Ishan Matramaina.
So I will have to do some research, Auntie.
You have to do.
Thank you.
In a song also.
Pardon?
In a song, Ishana Matramu Lenchakanu. Ramuni Pai Kalu. We sing in a song. Swami.
Okay. I will do some research, Auntie. Thank you. Thank you. Sai.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll close with Samastaloka and Shanti.
Sai Ram, there is an announcement. Next Saturday, we have Swadhyaya from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. So we will send out the details via WhatsApp. Thank you, Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, sister. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh. Samastaloka sukhino bhavantu. Samastaloka sukhino bhavantu. Samastaloka sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Sai Ram, everyone.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.